Hey, this is Johnny Damon, your favorite caveman from the 2004 World Champion Boston Red Sox. You're listening to Boston's Big Three podcast presented by Ride the Wave Media.
All right, everybody, what's up? Boston's Big Three podcast presented by Ride the Wave Media. This is episode 52, 5-2. And today, Boston's Big Three is presented by Bench Clearers. Now, for those listening at home, if you're listening on Spotify, if you're listening on Apple, we appreciate it. You're not getting the visual because this is going to be a complete Patriots podcast. But I'm repping the Bruins right now. I got sent a little Bruins, like a basketball jersey. I think it's absolutely sick. It's comfortable. Now, they sent me an XL. Bab's been putting on a little weight lately. I'm eating for 3. Just, I got the twins on the way. So a little snug fit, but I think it's awesome. It's a great fit, perfectly fit. You make sure you check out Bench Clearers on Instagram. If you're a big hockey fanatic, I know Bruins Warrior will get excited. I'm sure he'll end up buying 10 of these. If you even like, you might be a Flyers fan. You might be a Coyotes fan. That's absolutely fine. You can rep this. You check out Bench Clearers. I don't want to screw that one up. Bench Clearers. Guys, today – it's all about Patriots. We're going to recap the draft. We have Jay the Pats fan on here down from Tampa Bay. We got Justin Zolot back on here, Nash Pats fan club. And, of course, we got Joe Stafford here, the man who's been putting all his mock drafts together, which I'm going to give it right off the bat, Stafford. You went 7 out of 8 right off the bat. And we'll get into that a little bit later. You can, tout how you got all the positions right and all that and say that you're a know-it-all. Before we get into the draft itself, I got to talk about Rob Gronkowski coming out of retirement and going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We haven't talked about that yet on Boston's Big Three. I'm going to do a little rant session here to kind of get it going and open it up for today. Now, if you follow the Spike King on Instagram, I was asleep when Rob Gronkowski came out of retirement and the news came. And it really wasn't news to me that he was going to go to Tampa. I mean, Leroy the dog, he had it first. And
Woof,
knew
woof.
that it was good boy, by the way. You knew that he was going to come out of retirement. I've been saying it for a year. He's going to come out. He's going to come out. So everyone was hinging on, what's Spike King got to say? What's he going to do about this? I mean, the same thing with Brady. I'm not upset that they go to Tampa Bay, and I'm happy that Gronk's coming out of retirement and he rested his body. And I've been saying this, that a lot of NFL players over the next couple of years are going to start doing this. They're going to take 1 full year off out of the league for their mental well-being and the physical toll they take, and they're going to come back into the league. I'm just upset because the Patriots fan base was played like puppets for the last year, and that just irks me. And I think that I just wanted to voice my opinion on that and say, hey, listen, Pats fans, yes, you can say Gronkowski helped win 3 Super Bowls and he doesn't owe you anything, but listen, he jerked around the entire fan base. Now, I understand, yes, Belichick tried trading Brady away, tried trading Gronk to the Lions. He's trying to see it's a business, and I understand that. These are professional athletes, and they should remain somewhat professional through this ordeal. Maybe you do want to screw Belichick over in the Patriots in the sense of, hey, you guys try getting rid of me, I'm going to sit out all year, and I'm going to tease I'm coming back. But what I'm upset about is the fans who have pissed away so much money on buying your jerseys, any merchandise, collectibles, tickets, concession stands. They pay to come see you. The same fans that have defended you and Tom Brady, you're part of this too because your Hulu commercial. Like these people that have defended Deflategate, Spygate, kissing your son, that have defended Gronkowski's partying. That's what I'm upset about. And I feel like a lot of fans are not seeing it that way, that these guys play with you. When Rob Gronkowski is coming on Barstool and saying, yeah, I'm going to come back week 12, I'm going to come back week 13. You watched that team last year, and you knew that they had the greatest defense in the last decade, and they just had nothing going on offense. And you watched that team, and you know Rob Gronkowski would be an absolute difference maker. And the fact that he teased his comeback for CBD products, he teases his comeback for his Gronk Beach party, I am upset as a fan. Gronkowski, good luck down in Tampa Bay. Like, I'm not wishing him to get hurt. He's going to come back to the Patriots and retire as a Pats Hall of Famer. He's going into Canton one day. I'm not upset. I just want to speak as a fan and say This is unacceptable. Same thing with Tom Brady. Your Hulu commercial. I'm not going anywhere. You say that inside Gillette Stadium. You got everybody wrapped around your fingers. You're doing it for a brand. I understand the marketability about it, but as a fan, it needs to be said out there. Mostly people disagree with me because of the fact I spit on his jersey, but that's how I feel. And you know what? I'm not gonna say no disrespect. Gronk. Like it is disrespect. I feel bad for this guy right here, JE11. Because I'm sure that he already knew Brady was gone, and rightfully so. Brady's done his time. He did 20 years here. But everyone defending Rob Gronkowski, saying he's gotten 20 concussions and he's put his body on the line. What about this guy right here, JE11? He's never bitched or moaned or complained about his contract. He's never bitched about the playing time. He goes out there and he grinds. This guy has put his body on the line just as much as Rob Gronkowski. If I'm JE11 and I'm looking at Gronk, I'm pissed at Rob Gronkowski because does Gronk deserve top tight end money? Absolutely. He deserves all of that. So does JE11. He deserves to get paid as well, too. But you don't see him pissing and moaning about that. He goes and does his job. If JE11 sees that, he's like, this guy literally sat out an entire year just for himself, and he could have just played for us. And even if Gronk played 25% of the snaps for 3 games and it still ended the same way, losing to the Titans, I'd be absolutely fine with him going to Tampa Bay and was like, okay, see you later. You try to gut it out and it didn't work, and then you're gonna go somewhere else and try it somewhere else. That's my thoughts about Rob Gronkowski. I love doing the Instagram stuff because I will literally voice my opinion and people will twist my words around. And same thing with the Brady. Like, why are you slandering Brady? You must hate Tom you're talking shit about him. I'm just saying I'm not happy the way that happens. That's my opinion. If you don't like it, go screw yourself. I'm just going to let you know I have some validity behind it. So before we get into the draft, I want to go around the table here and give me your thoughts about Rob Gronkowski going to Tampa Bay. And I'm going to start with Jay because, Jay, now you're down in Tampa Bay.
Yes, sir.
You have Tom Brady following you down there. You got Rob Gronkowski following you down there. The boys are getting back together. I know that if there is a season and fans can go, you'll be there, and you're going to be supporting them. Go ahead, talk it out. What's your thoughts?
So I'm not mad at Gronk for coming to Tampa Bay. If Tom stayed in New England, there's no doubt Gronk's in New England. So all this to me falls on Tom's shoulders. I called Gronkowski coming back this year as soon as I found out about his CBD medic company. The guy ends the season with the Super Bowl, and Rob, Chris, Dan, any Gronk brother, I love you guys, but this is just my take. I feel he overstated his injuries post the Super Bowl when he was talking about, when he went back to the locker room and he couldn't walk and his leg was like, whatever, 2 sizes too big or shaken or whatever it was. And then he goes and he starts the CBD medic. And I was like, this is brilliant. The guy is a marketing genius. He's going to take a year off from football. He's going to promote his CBD brand. And then CBD is going to get passed in the Players Association to be legal for players to use. And then he's going to come back and say, the reason why I was able to come back and play was because I was taking these CBD products. And if they can take me back from being hurt and coming back into the league, look what they can do for you. So I knew Gronk was going to take a year off. I knew it was all revolved around the CBD lotions, oils, pills, whatever it is. So I'm not mad at Gronk for coming to Tampa Bay. He's following Tom. He said he was going to be traded to the Lions. And he said, I'll just retire because I'm not playing for anybody but Tom. Tom, you're right. The Hulu commercial, hook, line, and sinker. I bit right into it. He's in Gillette Stadium, like he said. I'm not going anywhere. Here we go. There's all that talk. Is he walking into the stadium? Is he walking out of the stadium? Is this the visitor's entrance? What's going on? I disregarded all of that. I 100% thought Tommy was coming back. Once he went to Tampa, it was just a matter of time before Gronk was coming down here. And to be honest, as someone who's lived here for going on almost a year now, I'm not mad at him, man. It's a lot nicer down here in Tampa than it is in Foxborough. It is fucking beautiful down here. So yeah, that's just my take. I saw it. I saw Gronk taking the year off from the beginning. Like I said, it's all wrapped around the CBD. He's just making money. He's making business moves, and he just wants to play with Tom. And honestly, I can't blame him. We're all hoping Stidham's going to be great. We're all hoping Stidham's going to be able to take the torch and carry it on. But I mean, Tom's the GOAT, and if you have the choice for someone in the league to throw you a football, why not Brady?
No, I get that view 100%. I agree with you on almost literally everything you and Babs have said going forward so far. But the number one thing I want to emphasize, Gronk is not the mastermind behind all of this stuff like he's being made out to be in the media. This all falls back to Tom Brady. In that Hulu commercial, we say he's coming back. I didn't buy for a second that meant he was going to be a Patriot again. Not for a second. That just meant he was staying inside and playing his career out, not retiring. That was like the official announcement in my eyes.
Yeah, you thought that, but the entire fan base, I would say 95% of it thought that he was coming back.
Well, I think it's part of it because they wanted to believe that. People tend to believe what they want to believe.
I probably had horse blinders on, and I had like my little fan glasses that I was looking through. But yeah, I believed, man. I believed. I had a thought that Brady cared about legacy, that he cared about being, because there's a difference between, to me, Montana and Peyton legacies, and then you got the Kobe legacies and the Tim Duncan legacies and the Bill Russells. There's something to be said about staying with one team and winning championships with one team and retiring with the team that drafted you. I thought Tom Brady cared more about that than I guess he did.
I will say on that. I'm going to say I'm sorry, Stafford. I just want to say on that point, Bill Belichick also cares about his legacy too, and his legacy is post Tom Brady and winning without him. And the same thing, if you want to talk about legacies as well, Tom Brady's legacy, I can win it without Bill. And I think just that having that motivation on both sides of it, Bill was pushing him out and saying, this is it. And Brady's still playing. And I've never said this, and Brady's not washed up. That guy is still at least an above average quarterback. Like, I'm not saying he's number one. I'm not that stupid. But I'm saying like he's top 15, and it depends on the kind of season he's going to have. So it goes both ways on that one.
Definitely. Belichick's chasing Shula. That's his whole thing. But back to the point we're talking about here. Gronk would have come back last season, I firmly believe, but I think Brady told him to take it off. I really do. I think Gronk was thinking about coming back down the stretch towards that playoff run because he didn't want to deal with the training camp, didn't want to deal with most of the regular season. I do firmly believe that. I just believe that Brady said, Gronk, take the rest of the year off. We'll evaluate after next year, because Brady knew he was not coming back to the Patriots after the playoffs. He said that on Howard Stern. Like it was known. He said he probably knew it was his last year in New England. So we told Gronk to take the rest of the year off. He's going to figure out where he's going to play, and then Gronk was going to sign there regardless. Jay, you're 100% right. If the tides do turn and Brady had been back in New England, Gronk's a Patriot still. That's 100. I think it's a home run. I think that's not even questionable. But because of Brady, Gronk's in Tampa Bay. This was not a premeditated move by Gronkowski. This was not initiated by him. This is all on Brady.
Yeah, and if I may jump in here to kind of complete the circle, I think you guys hit it all spot on. Jay, 100%, the fact that he was using that platform of going down to Tampa Bay and taking that time off to market himself as an individual, larger than life, pursuing, elsewhere with the WWE and the New Year's Eve stunt with Steve Harvey. I mean, all this crazy stuff that, off the field. But having said that as well, I and staff agree with you as well. That it was all premeditated based on what Brady was going to be saying. Like, is he saying or is not going? I want to kind of disagree with you to an extent, Jay, on Brady and the whole legacy thing. If you kind of look back at his whole career, granted, he wanted to be the larger than life. He wanted to be the face of the franchise. But here's a guy that literally took pay cut after pay cut after pay cut after pay cut. You see the numbers that he put up over the course of his career that superseded any other person, at that position. But he was being paid like 21st, quarterback in the league. I mean, it's almost like, kind of going off, what we're going to be watching later with Michael Jordan, thinking like the Scottie Pippen, like he's overproducing and being underpaid. And so I kind of get to a point where it's like, all right, like I provided all the performances that you guys wanted from me and what has driven this franchise as a business to compete with the Cowboys and other, multi-billion-dollar companies. But nonetheless, like, you got to pay the guy, it's like,
that's why I think he cared about the legacy, because he was willing to be the underpaid quarterback, because he knew that was going to be the ticket to help him win championships.
Yeah. But I mean, you get to the end of the line though. It's like, all right, contract's up. Let's talk. I've taken, it's like pay me later in life, so, but yeah.
I mean, you guys have zero problem the way that between the Hulu commercial and the way that Rob Gronkowski kept teasing his comeback, that
Well,
you guys
no.
have no problem with that?
No, not
I
saying
do
that,
have
yeah.
a problem. I do have a problem, but not as much of a problem as I thought I was going to because we got value back for Gronk.
Yeah.
If we got no value back for Gronk, I would be livid right
But
now.
it's
I would
still
be
okay
pissed.
that they kind of fucked around with the fan base.
They
That's
tossed around
okay.
us.
I mean,
It's
yeah.
You can go, Justin.
No, I was gonna say. I mean, we think back a year ago when we're entering the draft. I mean, is he coming? Is he staying? I mean, they didn't really invest in the tight end position at all, and we're dealing with two. I mean, Izzo and Lacoste were all right, but like, I mean, had they? I mean, whatever, man, I'm just an optimist. But like, here are two no-name guys, right? If Gronk had come out and said, "Hey, listen, I'm not going to be playing this year," like, make your moves, based on that decision. And I wholeheartedly feel like that position could have been so much stronger and ultimately would have given us more weapons to drive it down the field than Brady throwing his helmet off in the sideline in Houston that ultimately led to him leaving. So I don't know. I guess to an extent, Gronk kind of screwed us even further back to what we're talking about now.
And at the same time, I mean, Gronk had felt that he might have gotten screwed. And actually, just wrapping this part up, it makes that Super Bowl 53 run so much more magical now, looking back on it, because a lot of this does stem off of Super Bowl 52. And I think it does come with the Malcolm Butler benching. Yeah. And there has been the rumor about Butler and Steve Belichick got into a fight, and Butler said, "You're only on the team because of your dad," and this and that. And that could have caused a rift in the locker room. So, especially going into Super Bowl 53 season where they started off 1-2 and they just looked terrible on the road all year. And it does seem like they couldn't get their chemistry together. It makes that playoff run. And the fact that they were still able to win a championship, comparing it to the MJ documentary and how the Bulls were able to win that 6-1, the last dance. The Patriots kind of had that last dance, although it extended the extra year. And even looking at the Patriots last year and seeing how great their defense was, and even having Antonio Brown and Josh Gordon, you saw like, dude, this team looks like they're stacked. And the fact that they just unraveled and fell apart halfway through the season. And it's just sad to see that. But any final thoughts on your side?
Off that point at 53, just one kind of underrated part of this, we're kind of comparing it to the 98 Bulls and so forth. That AFC Championship game is even more crazy when you look back at it now. That final drive in overtime.
I was there, man. It was cold as shit there.
3rd and long, almost every single not every single drive, but every single set of plays there. 3rd and long, Gronk, 10 yards down the field, first down by literally inches. Edelman down the field, double covered, inches. Hogan, Rex Burkhead to cap it off. I mean, that is the stuff of legends, and that's the stuff we're going to be telling our kids about when we're going to be on this drought, the championship drought, for, I'm presuming, a long time. I hope I'm wrong, but maybe for a long time. I think 52 is being overrated a little bit when it comes to Malcolm Butler kind of causing that rift. I really don't think that had as much profound effect as we think it did, because we kind of made up for it in the next season with that Super Bowl win. If we had not made the playoffs or something drastic the next season, that would have been a whole different indicator. But I think because we recovered that next season and actually won, that kind of most of those feelings were kind of blown away.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say I'm very interested I know the players won't talk about it, but I'm very interested to see some of their takes, like about Rob Gronkowski and Brady leaving, and I want to see how they respond this year. I think that Brady, he's allowed to do what he wants. He did bring some drama and some rift between Belichick and how things were run, like the Alex Guerrero situation and the TB12 and all that. And then Gronk having a joint press conference about your injuries with the Gronk family and Patriots. Like a lot of the stuff that Belichick, it's now his team again. And Bill, we trust. And even though in the draft, which we're about to get to in a second, making some of these wacky picks, you still trust the guy. He still has these guys that are going to listen to him. He still is the greatest coach of all time. So can he get that locker room back under him, believing in him? We'll find out. Guys, NFL draft is completed. The Patriots got their picks. But first of all, virtual draft this year, they kept chiming in to Vegas. I'm so shocked how empty Vegas is right now. Yeah. I feel bad for Joe Burrow because not only because he's going to become a Cincinnati Bengal, is that his dude, you would have been the first overall pick in Las Vegas, get your knob slobbed, afterwards. That guy would have been partying nonstop, and he's just sitting at home with his parents, probably have a grilled cheese afterwards to celebrate with a glass of milk and go to bed, upstairs. Guys, what did you think about the NFL? It pretty much looked like everything ran smoothly for the most part, except Bill O'Brien. I think he had a little technical difficulties, and he was yelling and screaming. But what do you guys think? Let's start off with you, Justin.
Yeah, I think I thought it exceeded my expectation on all levels. I thought that the NFL did a good job of engaging the families and the players and really getting that raw emotion, which quite honestly, like as we're kind of taking things, from now and moving towards the present, I think that they should incorporate that into future drafts. One huge takeaway I thought was hilarious, right locally here in Nashville, was the Vrabel household. I mean, it was all over the place. Like the two sons, one in a mullet, the other one in a Power Ranger, and then the third kid taking a shit out back. I mean, and with Vrabel having a huge chaw in his mouth. Like, I mean, you talk about raw. Like, I mean, yeah. As a fan, I thought that was hilarious. I don't know if it was professional, but it gave it some character. Because, I mean, when you're drafting and doing a Zoom on something that's so serious for the organization, I mean, I thought they nailed it in terms of getting everyone engaged and making it as entertaining as they possibly could.
I think that just because you're the commissioner of the league doesn't mean if they ever do this again, which they're not gonna, but golly, what a horrible fucking host of the night. Like, just
he was shifting during that Browns pick.
Just the like he's literally, you talk about professionalism, Zola. He's leaning back in his little armchair. Hey, with the 743rd pick of that, like, come on, man. Like, you got tired after like 22 drafts, and like, oh, I need to sit down. And he's talking about his M&Ms. Like, who cares about your fucking M&Ms, dude? Like, bring in if you're gonna do it where you don't have the excitement of the live crowd and the aura of being in Vegas or downtown Lower Broadway or something that builds that energy, you can't have this just stone face, dead figure, face of the league. And you want me to watch that for 3.5 hours? It was just painful to watch. Bring in somebody who has experience, be like an Oscar host or somebody
like
who can hold a night. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just bad. It was just bad.
I'm with you 100%. First, he starts in the full suit and he looks professional for about the first 5 picks. Then he switches to a V-neck sweater because he's uncomfortable. Then another 10 picks later, he's in the lazy boy in the corner announcing the picks.
I was waiting to see him in bed. Round 2, I thought he was going to be laying in bed, curled up with his wife, being like, oh, yeah, there's a guard from Fresno State. He's a Bill. Back to you.
No, I agree with you 100%. And then imagine getting booed virtually. Imagine going to your Zoom call and getting booed.
That was awkward. Where he's like trying to get people like, yeah, boo me, guys.
Yeah,
boo
come
me.
on.
Yeah, you don't love me like that. Yeah, boo. It was just awkward. I'm like,
that was so awkward with it. So awkward with it.
And I think it was the virtual setup in general worked as well as it could have been expected. They didn't get hacked or anything. It went pretty smoothly. Yeah, there was some interruptions between picks. That was just more of the typical draft agenda anyway. Many commercials.
Pretty sure Nike hacked our pick, but
yeah, probably. Or we did the dog picking for us. No, but in all seriousness, though, then you have Mel Kiper on ESPN announcing the picks in his basement, breaking them down and everything. That dude looked like a Muppet with the setup he had last night. He had like a watermelon head going on. He had the big nose. It was just embarrassing to see how that setup was for his Zoom, too. But virtual draft success, I'm going to say like that just because it's obviously not as exciting as it could have been in Vegas. But all things considered, it was fine.
Yeah, with you.
It could, like you said, it could have went a lot worse, but I don't think it went well.
Someone's gonna lower their microphone. I can hear everything. We
Is it
good?
me?
We good? I'm getting feedback.
All right, there we go. Sounds a little bit better.
Yeah.
That happens. All right, guys, let's go into the Patriots, their draft. So instead of picking 23rd overall, classic Belichick, we trade down. You end up picking up a second rounder, which they needed. They didn't have a second round pick. You pick up a third round. Okay, that looks pretty good. No problem. So this is what we're going to do before we even get into these picks. We're going to start with Jay. You're going to have it first. We'll go right to Justin. And then, boom, we'll go to Stafford. You'll get to wrap it up for every single pick. So the Patriots, just, you're watching there. You're sitting there. And I'm glad almost that they didn't even have a draft party, because then imagine going to a draft party at Gillette Stadium or something, and you're like all excited and like, they just trade out. It sounded like the Patriots wanted Justin Jefferson. If you look at if you hear that audio, because Belichick was like, was Jefferson just taken? And like, yep. And they confirmed, like, all right, let's just trade down. So I'm very interested if they truly wanted him. He was just taking the pick right beforehand to pair up with N'Keal Harry, and would have been a nice weapon for Stidham. So instead, they trade down. You go to the next day. It's Friday. All right, awesome. Pats are making their first pick of the 2020 NFL draft. And from where is he from? Lornine? How do you say
From
it?
Leanne Rhymes University.
Yeah.
D2 college. You take safety, Kyle Duggar. So real quick, Kyle Duggar, which I'm sure that you guys have plenty to talk about him. He, I got this little, and it was a nice little graphic that Matt Gordon made. Shout out to Matt Gordon. He says he dominated the Combine and Senior Bowl. He led the Senior Bowl in tackles. Some of his Combine rankings for safeties, he had the largest hands, the largest arms, the longest wingspan. His 42-inch vertical was first among safeties at the Combine. His 134-inch broad jump was second among safeties at the Combine. And his 40-yard dash, he was a 4.49, which was sixth among safeties. Kyle Duggar, and then everyone's like, classic Belichick. He was small college defensive player of the year, D2 college. This guy gets picked. Jay, take it away.
So the dude gets drafted, and I don't follow college football. I think even if I did follow college football, I wouldn't know who he was. I didn't do any pre-draft scouting. I'm not really that guy. So immediately when he gets drafted, I just throw out like the biggest, who the fuck is this guy? And immediately start, going to the YouTube and all that. I guess he's supposed to be kind of like a Patrick Chung type, but maybe a little faster. The only thing I can think of is right now we're trying to build a team to stop, the Deshaun Watsons, the Lamar Jacksons, and the Pat Mahomes of the league, which makes sense. If the guys are going to be a hard-hitting, fast guy, they can come up in the box and make a play, then so be it. But we don't have that fail-safe of Tom Brady anymore to where we can miss on picks. So this is elite. Taking a D2 guy, I watched his film. It looks good, but he's playing against accountants and former and lawyers. These guys aren't going to be football players in the next month. So I don't know. I watch his punt returns, and I'm like, all right, that's cool and all, but it looks like me playing against eighth graders. I'm supposed to look good against those guys. I want to know how he's going to look playing against NFL talent, and I don't know. I don't care that he had a good Senior Bowl. Great, you had a good week of football against guys who, Senior Bowl, they're good, but they're not the best of the best. The top tier, round one NFL talent aren't going and going all out in the Senior Bowl. So it's a big question mark, and it's a huge risk that we took. And if it works out, and if he turns into Ed Reed, Sean Taylor type, then kudos to Belichick. But man, if we drafted another DB in the second round who doesn't work out, it's hurting, and it sets our franchise back, because every year we miss out on these top tier, because we drafted out of the first round. We missed out on first round talent to draft this guy. And I'm worried about it. I'm cautiously excited, but I'm worried about it.
I get that, Jay. A couple points I want to make here. Two points. First one, Spike, you had shared that quote that Scott Zolot had made. When you talk about some no-name players, one that he posed was Ben Coates. We're talking about a Patriot Hall of Famer, 1990s NFL all-decade team. He went to a tiny D2 school in Salisbury, North Carolina by Livingstone College. Doesn't even have a football program anymore. The thing the thing that I feel that Belichick and the coaching staff, Caserio and the rest of the scouting staff, they're gauging not so much like physical talent, but it's the intangibles. Taking guys that are in the 6th round, 7th round. I mean, look at Edelman and Brady, two of the faces of our franchise. They're taking these intangibles and making these what are like natural grinders. Here's a guy that literally got passed on by every, D1 college. And, granted, yes, he's playing against guys that probably are thinking about, other professions in their, later life careers. But, this guy had to grind every minute of every day just to get placed in the realm of what would be considered the second round. So I'm really, thinking upside on that part. And then how we'll use him, I think definitely going along the lines of Chung and McCourty. These are two guys that, have been around for a while. McCourty, I've thrown out stats here, was like 94% in terms of being on the field. That's got wear and tear on the body. And so as we're thinking about, what we're going to be doing, not just this year, 2020, but 2021, 2022, how are we going to get guys to plug and play? And he's an X factor on special teams as well. The video that we saw on YouTube, yes, he was dancing and dodging tackles, but special teams is going to be huge, especially when we're playing the Ravens and the Chiefs and the Houston Texans and the rest of the, really physical quarterbacks. And so, any extra yard, in terms of field position, especially when we have a young guy like Stidham, we're not expecting him to go 80, 90 yards every single drive. But if we can get it as close to midfield as possible to now bring in our dude from Marshall to kick, I'm all for it. So I thought it was a great pick, and a lot of uncertainties, of course, but I think he's got a lot of upside in terms of intangibles.
Yeah, so I graded the first 5 picks of the draft. I just want to kind of break this down. So Kyle Duggar at 37. First of all, I'm very disappointed we didn't use 23 to take Kenneth Murray or Patrick Queen out of LSU and Oklahoma, respectively. Those could have been 2 game-changing linebackers that take the torch from Hightower and lead us into the next generation of Patriots football. I think we missed the target big time on that front. I think 2 generational talents.
And not only do we miss on Queen, but he goes to our rival in Baltimore.
Yeah, Baltimore, A+.
And then Murray goes in that spot we traded out of. And that's even more ironic, I think, than anything else. Back to Duggar. I think everybody's concerned about the D2 thing. The thing I'm most disappointed in, he's 24, so it's more of like an advanced rookie than we're used to. We're gonna get even less use out of him than we're supposed to. I think.
Let me chime in real quick, Staff, with that though. I will say this. Let me stick up for the guy. He is a Patriot. I'm gonna always stick up for him, no matter if I'm worried about him. Ed Reed was a rookie when he was 24 as well, so I looked into that. So I originally was very upset about the 24 thing, and I've looked into other players. So the 24 thing doesn't really bother me as much anymore. But sorry to interrupt. I want to throw that out there.
Yeah, no, definitely fair enough. I gave this draft pick a B- rating because there are a lot of unknowns going into drafting a D2 guy this high in the second round. And the biggest problem I had with drafting a guy like this at the spot we did, Antoine Winfield Jr. is still on the board at this spot. A 3-time All-American academic performer, not just on the field. This guy's smart, and that's the number one thing Belichick looks for is these smart guys. That's why he always drives Rutgers guys. And so when you have a guy like Winfield who's so talented on the field and so talented in the classroom, he's a student of the game. His dad's one of the great cornerback historically for the Vikings and the Bills. I just don't think it makes sense to take a guy like this who you probably could have gotten later in the draft if you wanted to, when there's better guys at his position available for you at 37 that you absolutely couldn't get later in the draft. I agree with your guys' comparisons totally. He's a Patrick Chung-esque player. He's faster, a lot faster than Patrick Chung. I think the Patriots often tend to try to outsmart every other team, try to get kind of arrogant with some of their draft picks, especially the past couple of years. I think this is a prime example of one of them. They also value special teams, which is, of course, a very important aspect of this game. It's a 3-phase game. People often neglect that part of the game. But you don't need to draft 2-way players or 3-way players, I should say, this high in the draft. That's my main concern. I think Winfield's a better player. I think Duggar has potential. I'm not gonna roast the guy. I think he still has potential to be a very good player for a long time on this team, especially with the scheme fit he has, being like a Chung-esque player. I was just disappointed that there was better talent on the board and we just didn't capitalize on it. So a B- rating for now, but I'm hoping that changes my mind.
Just looking at what I did, not much on this pick, but every other pick going forward. So I was trying to scope out like highlights. So I go on YouTube or something like that, do a little quick screen record. Duggar's highlights mainly was the punt returns. And yeah, you're playing against the accountants and lawyers and that's funny. And will it translate to, you're not even going to D1, you're going to the NFL. So will that even translate? That Patrick Chung thing, what do you think about Patrick Chung going into 2020? I know that he could end up being a cap casualty, meaning that they might even just cut him to save some money. Do you think Patrick Chung sticks around for the one more season?
I think it's his final year in the NFL regardless.
Yeah.
To be frank with you, I think these safeties are kind of run their course here in New England and the league specifically. There was rumors about McCourty retiring even up to 2 seasons ago, and you've seen Chung's wear and tear, the kind of play style he plays with. It's a very physical, tolling thing for an athlete. I think it's his last year, period.
Yeah, and it's
go ahead. Go ahead,
no,
Bab.
no. I was just gonna say you keep.
I think the role that he's going to serve. I think the role he's going to serve this year, between McCourty and Chung, is really develop this young talent, and I think that's going to be the main theme for so many different positions. Not so much in the secondary. I mean, we're talking on the offensive line, defensive line. I mean, it seems like this is the start of the rebuild, which we all knew was inevitably going to be happening. But Chung and McCourty, especially, kind of being the mentors as they kind of make their exit.
And that's exactly what I was going to say. I mean, you said it a little bit better. You're more educated than me. But I was going to say that pretty much you want to keep someone like Chung around. You're not going to screw around with him. He's a Patriot. Like, that's what it is. Same thing with like a Hightower situation. He's got 11 million, 12 million this upcoming year. They could cut Hightower and they only owe him 2. Like, it's just like you're not going to screw around with that. Hightower is a Patriot. Like, Belichick, he knows that, hey, we're going to keep you guys for the last couple of years. Just stay here, help us with the young guys. And I know a lot of these guys, it's great. If this is the rebuild year, they're still going to be competitive, but wow, they have a lot of great talent for their future. Moving on. Patriots, they only had 1 second round. Wait a minute. Let's take 2 of our third rounders and trade up. They end up trading up. They get this guy from Michigan. They get Josh Uche. Now, also, when we're going through all these picks, I might mispronounce some names. Josh Uche didn't find, and this is a little bio, Josh Uche didn't find much playing time for Michigan until 2019, but showed steady flashes as a pass rusher in 2018 despite limited opportunities. Whenever he's been given chances to rush, Uche has been productive, showcasing good variety, burst, bend, and effort. Well, he doesn't have the skill set to play exclusively on the edge in the NFL. He has been given chances to serve in a true off-ball role, and there has been some positive flashes in all phases. So I looked at this pick as well, too. Then it started coming out. Him and Winovich are boys. And and this pick to me, and I said this to a few people, a couple phone calls here and there, was a Winovich pick. And I feel like they're trying to build the defense around Winovich. I feel like Winovich is going to be the Patriot for 10 years, and he's going to be the future captain. And I think based on, number one, the fan ability, the way he connects with the fans, he's already well-liked, well-received. His charity, number 2, charity work that he does in the community. Number 3, he's kind of that, when he got drafted last year, Winovich, he's got that Gronk-esque, like kind of funny, fun boy type of thing that Belichick – he kind of likes that in a way. Like, as long as you come in here, you do your job, and Winovich I think is going to step up big this upcoming year. Still learning, but Josh Uche, Michigan guy, round 2. Jay, take it away.
All right, so it's weird. So I've read up a little bit about this guy, and I hear 2 things. I hear, one, he's very similar to a Teddy Bruschi type player, and that he's here to fill Jamie Collins' role, and that kind of confuses me, because I feel like those are 2 different things. But I'd be happy, honestly, if he does either one of those. If he's 75, 80% of a Teddy Bruschi, he's a Patriot for life. I mean, I'll take that 10 out of 10 times. You're right with the whole Winovich thing. I 100% agree with you. There is a lot to be said, especially when you're dealing with, it'd be one thing if you draft like a lineman or a corner, out of Michigan, but you got 2 linebackers now, or usually a defensive end, but he's probably going to play in an outside linebacker position for us from everything that I'm hearing. There's a lot to be said for having that camaraderie, and having that ability to kind of know what the other guy's going to do without having to talk to him. And that goes a long way in sports. So hopefully it all works out. I'm expecting big things out of the kid, just maybe not right away. I see a rookie year kind of for him, like we saw last year with Winovich, and then like you said, I think Winovich is going to take that bump in his second year, and I see Uche doing that 21.
Yeah, no, definitely. As we're thinking about, I guess the common theme is kind of the rebuild, if you will, and so obviously we have our concerns in the secondary, but certainly on the middle the linebacking line, in terms of us being able to lose, Landon Roberts, Jamie Collins, Kyle Van Noy, obviously, 2 of them going down to Miami to go hang out with Flores. But nonetheless, I think that this pick particularly 100% spot on. The relationship that he has with Chase Winovich, someone whose opinion is certainly valued. Players and the chemistry. I guess Winovich was talking about how when they were in college together, they would constantly talk about fundamentals. They would always talk about certain plays, whether it be during practice or past games or even future games. So I think that they can certainly build off that and create that team chemistry across the board, and not specifically just between those two. I think his versatility, in terms of being to be able to play on the line and then off the line as well, kind of like a north-south type player. Compared to like a Brandon Spikes type deal, or even a Teddy Bruschi at that. But as we're facing against more mobile quarterbacks, it's not just the running back who's going to be making the moves. We need to have guys that are quick to the edge and be able to cut that to the sideline off. So I think it's a great pick, 100%. I thought it was smart, and I think it's a great fit just simply based on who we have on the team and the culture he's coming from.
I'm with you 1,000%. I gave this grade a B+, this draft pick a B+. The number one thing I had for Uche when I was breaking down his film was versatility. Like you just said, he has a lot of ability to just change where he is on the field and still be effective. I think he 100% fills a Jamie Collins void you leave, because he's a situational type guy where week one he can come in and be effective. Might not be a starter right away, might not be as impactful as a guy like Hightowers or even Collins his rookie year, but he makes plays, and he's going to be similar to what Winovich was last year when he has these splash plays. You see potential there, and you start to see what he's going to become in the future for the Patriots. Obviously, it fills a need. Like you just highlighted, Van Noy went down to Miami with Brian Flores as well as Landon Roberts. He's going to be one of those guys who's going to be a value guy this year. Next year, take that step and really become a starter. I'm not sure if he's going to be a Pro Bowl type guy, but I think he'll be a starter for a long time on this New England Patriots defense.
With you. Mm-hmm.
I also liked the Jeff Howe tweet that comes directly a quote from Josh Uche right afterwards about him playing in New England. It's a good fit for me because I'm a hard-ass worker, and the Patriots work their asses off. I just like that. Love that mindset. You're already trying to establish, like, hey, I'm here. I know I have to put the work in. I know it's going to take time. And that's a Patriot. That's a Patriot right there. And
I'm a dog mentality right there.
Yeah,
that's what we want to see there, and I think this kind of made up for that, Ruggers pick. If you were not feeling that confident, and you're like, that's somebody that's,
I think that's a home run pick for sure.
You're not taking sexy picks. You're not going to grab someone that might be the instant guy. And right there, back to back, what Stafford said with both the grades, B-, B+. That's what Belichick's known for, is getting a bunch of B players. Because sometimes you might slip in the grades and you fall to become a C or D player. See you later. And sometimes those B players turn into A players. I thought this was awesome, and I think the Winovich and Uche thing is going to be something great. And, I mean, Michigan, Tom Brady, Ty Law, like those Michigan guys. Now you have another duo with Michigan guys. So it was interesting for sure. Moving on. Next pick. A two-time national champion, Afreenine Jennings.
Does anybody know how to say this guy's name? You and the commission both have Anthony. You guys don't remember Penny?
Penny Jennings. So we have Penny Jennings out of Bama. There was a pros and cons list that I saw, and it says, here's some of his pros. In the passing game, his production has superseded his skill set, shows very good strength and pop in his hands to disengage and close on the quarterback. In the run game, he is a heavy at the point of attack. He has very good hand placement, very difficult to move vertically. There was some cons, and this was funny because his con said he's laid off the ball and lacks the fast twitch to be an elite running a linebacker. But yet, in the video that I posted was him coming off like right as the ball's being snapped and getting right to the quarterback. And now, obviously, those are going to be just a couple good plays. But Jay, toss it over to you. What do you think about Penny Jennings?
All right. First of all, Anthony is how you say his name. Seems like nobody knows how to say it. You guys missed out on the whole early 90s or late 90s Orlando Magic. Anywho, I mean, the guy, honestly, I think here's what's going to happen. You're going to have Uche coming in. He's going to be your first and second down guy. And then Anthony is going to come. Excuse me, I flipped that. Jennings is going to be your first. Jennings is going to be your first down guy, second down guy, and then when you need to get to the quarterback, you're going to put in Uche. I see them splitting time with each other, and hopefully the guy puts in some work and and helps us out. But again, I know nothing about the guy. You know, I told Stafford this when we went live. I don't know shit about these guys. I do a little bit of homework before we go live, and I hope for the best. But you know, I think he'll be all right. I think he'll be a role player for us, but I'm not expecting too much.
Okay. I think going off the same mantra of what we've talked about with Uche and Winovich, you know, we're talking about another program down in Alabama. The one current teammate he has on the team is Damian Harris, running back. And the fact that, you know, Belichick took obviously Harris didn't get a lot of plays last year, but again, he's got the intangibles. He's got that type of mentality, dog eat dog mentality. And his trust in Nick Saban. I mean, these guys, their relationship goes back to the mid-'90s when they were coaching together with the Cleveland Browns. And so I think when Saban's like, hey, listen, these are the set of guys that I think will plug and play. I mean, they talk all the time, you know, and they recap each other's game film and all that. And they, you know, what's this guy's pro? What's this guy's con? So I think him having that professional network there certainly played a role in why we drafted so high for this guy. You know, Anthony was one of those players, you know, prior, you know, coming out of high school and such that had such high, you know, upside and potential. He had a major knee injury in 2017 against Clemson, and it really sidelined him. And of course, you know, kind of lowered his draft stock. Having said that, you know, where I see in kind of comparison with like Uche, where Uche can play the line and be, you know, the run and pass game. Anthony Jennings is going to be more on the edge in terms of being able to kind of slow down the run in there. But nonetheless, I think both of them are going to be in a developing stage and work out for us, hopefully.
Yeah. So I think you're right again, 100%. This was less about Penny Jennings, it's more about Nick Saban. Saban is the guy who relayed
100%.
this to Bill Belichick and said, "Hey, this guy has potential. Take him while you can before he starts to drop too low and become a real steal for another team as the draft develops on." The one thing I kind of wrote about him, looking over the Bama film in general, not just his specific highlight film, he's definitely a setup guy. I think he makes other guys succeed. And that's a big value thing for the Patriots because it's all about the team. It's not about individual players and stats. Yeah, he might not give you 8 sacks a season like he's supposed to, but he might give you 3 and give another guy 2.5 on every all of the line. You know what I mean? So it's gonna be tough for people to evaluate him specifically as an individual. But as a team effect, it's a great pick for me in the spot they picked him at. I gave him a C+ because it reminds me eerily of Derek Rivers. And I just don't want to relive this kind of nonsense again where we keep saying, oh, he has potential. There's potential there. We were seeing it in practice. He's going to crack it this year. It's going to be this year. Well, no, it wasn't this year. It's going to be next year. I can't keep hearing this nonsense about how there's potential there when there's clearly not. Some guys are both in the NFL and some guys aren't. Yes, Jennings had a terrible knee injury, but he played at Bama. He was successful at Bama, and he made an impact when he was on the field, especially affecting the guys next to him. But at the end of the day, it reminds me of Rivers a lot. That's why I gave it a C+. I just hope he can break that mold. Cautiously optimistic is how I would put my faith in Jennings right now.
I know you said about the potential of Derek Rivers. Well, this better be his year because this is it for him.
It's always next year.
It's always next year. But if he actually hits that potential, what a year to do it because this is the year you need it. So we're moving on. We're gonna end day 2 here with the back-to-back picks, pretty much in a way, because a lot of quarterbacks still out there. Quarterbacks were sliding down, and you're like, all right, well maybe Stidham's gonna have some tough competition. There's still a chance to get Jalen Hurts. There's still
before we move on here, Jalen Hurts in the 2nd round to the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah.
Are we kidding? That was the shock draft pick of the entire night
and the worst excuse ever. Oh, well, you never know because COVID-19, we might need like another quarterback. Like,
give me a break. Give me a break. I cannot believe. I mean, Penderson stole him, and it might affect their game more than I think it will. But a 2nd round pick for an insurance policy on Wentz is frankly ridiculous.
So you're going into day 2, Jalen Hurts, and you're like, oh, Jay Fromm. You start looking at some of these guys. You're like, all right, like, who's going to be competing? And at the end of the 3rd round, you're like, okay, they definitely need to get a quarterback. They definitely need to get something. We want to have something against Stidham. The Patriots go back-to-back tight ends. Now, not exactly back-to-back in the sense of pick-to-pick. It's just when they picked. So going for those 2, you got these 2 tight ends, and I'm probably going to fuck up both names. Well, one name. You got UCLA tight end, Devin Asasi. Did I say that right?
Asiani.
Say that again. Asiati.
Asiani.
All right, Asiati.
Wait, how do you say his name?
Devin Asiani.
I thought it was like Asiasi.
Asiasi. You better get this right, because this is what
Okay,
the
I'm
last
not
time.
Trust the guy on the top.
He's
Last
gonna
time-
earn me saying his name right.
The
You better get
last
some
time-
You're
balls
wrong
on
with the
saying it
name
right.
wrong. One or the other. This is a common theme for me.
The last time the Patriots drafted 2 tight ends in the same draft was Gronk and Hernandez. So you started seeing
Murdered
this.
it.
So Devin is a breath of fresh air for a team looking for a prospect that can fulfill the traditional inline duties of a tight end and be moved around the formation as a flex weapon. While he needs polish as both a blocker and receiver, he has a strong foundation to build upon with the upside to contribute in both areas. Devin has the upside to become a starter in the NFL and should at least be a quality tight end 2 by year 2-3. Then you go in Virginia Tech. Welcome to New England. Dalton Keene. Virginia Tech Dalton has the makings of much more impactful professional player than he was in college. Despite some exciting flashes, he didn't receive the chances he deserved in the pass game, and the offense failed to provide him the opportunity. With that said, he's shown the ability to produce as a blocker and receiver in a variety of alignments, and he opens a world of possibilities for an NFL offense. Dalton is highly competitive in everything he does, and there are baseline skills present to forecast him to a meaningful role in sub packages and special teams in the NFL. 2 tight ends. I'm going to let this go because we're package this together. Jay, take it away. The 2 tight ends. Now, you got 4 tight ends now, and not counting the signings afterwards too, which we'll get into later. But you got 4 tight ends now you're looking at, and with Lacoste and Izzo. It looks like they might be on their way out, packing your bags. So take it away.
All right, here's my first, impression of Asi, whatever his name is. He's the only guy that I currently follow on Instagram whose Instagram story is longer than yours, Babs. This guy, when he got drafted, if you said anything, if you were anywhere in the world and you said something about this kid getting drafted, he reposted it. It was ridiculous. Like, dude, relax. Like, you just got drafted in the NFL and he's just on his phone, loving life, loving people talking about him. He's, to me, at first I was like, this guy is all about me. Like, I don't know if I like that. Like, he's kind of, he wants the world to see all about him. But then I thought about it. You got that. Yeah, there it is. Yeah.
Oh my God.
It's crazy. But then I thought about it and I thought, his job is going to be to catch balls. And that mentality of me, that's that Terrell Owens mentality of I want the show to be about me. And those are the guys who go out there and they snatch that ball away from the DBs, and he's going to be snatching from linebackers, whatever. But I dig it. I kind of like it. I like the fact that he's like, look at me. I'm going to make plays. I'm a playmaker. This is all about me. And I'm going to put all you all in the dirt. And I love it. So I'm excited about him. But I'm not excited right now because I don't think he's actually going to contribute for maybe about 2 or 3 years. I think that same as well with Dalton Keene. I think they're, of the 4 of them, none of these undrafted tight ends are going to stay on the team. Of the 4 of them, one of them's got to go. I don't know if it's going to be, Lacoste or Izzo, but one of them's going to go. And I still think it's going to be a position of weakness for us. But I can see one of the 2 has to end up being a serviceable tight end in the near future. I just don't think it's going to be this year. They're too young, too raw. But, hopefully we get something decent out of it.
Good point there. Going on Devin Asiani out of UCLA here. Here's another connection of the Belichick Professional Network. Chip Kelly. He comes, he obviously with the Philadelphia Eagles, and then he was with my Oregon Ducks. But even going back further, University of New Hampshire. So you have a guy from New England, that Belichick has kind of grown fond over the years, and any type of recommendation, Belichick's going to take that into notice. Devin Asiani was a transfer from the University of Michigan. So we're coming from 2 types of programs, not only just Chip Kelly with that personal connection, but the Michigan program in general. So that's kind of a 2-prong why this guy may be of value to us, or at least we should naturally share some interest. His major breakout year was only his senior year, which kind of inevitably was why he transferred to UCLA. His big asset and weapon is the blocking. For him to be blocking off the line so that we can be able to set up plays or extend plays. This is kind of what made Gronk pretty valuable to us, obviously, besides, catching balls, but, for us to be able to get guys open and block. Dalton Keene, here's another guy that's super, super versatile. He lined up, on defense, on offense. I mean, hell, he had a start at Virginia Tech where he was a running back, for God's sakes. I mean, so Belichick loves these players that he can plug and play. Let's see how he does in this situation. Let's see how he does in that situation. He just seems super valuable in the fact that he can do so many different things and be, the epitome of what our offense, likes to roll with.
Yeah. So I'm gonna roll the CSC. I think that's funny as hell, Jay. So I'm gonna call him Devin a CSC. So Devin a CSC, UCLA. I gave him a C for this ranking because essentially we just drafted Dwayne Allen. That's basically what exactly we did for going forward, looking ahead at this college career. I mean, yeah, he has potential to catch the ball. So did Dwayne Allen coming out of college. I mean, Dwayne Allen wasn't basically a tackle playing tight end coming out of college. He had some athleticism and he had some ability to go downfield and get the football. He just reminds me exactly. I don't know why. I just keep watching the film over and over again. All I see is Dwayne Allen, and so obviously that's a mark off. Number one reason why I didn't like this, besides the player himself, Adam Trautman out of Dayton still on the board, and he is an absolute Bill Belichick draft pick. Small school guy, tons of potential, smart kid, stayed out of trouble. I just thought that made a lot of sense, and to have him pass on Trautman for a different tight end was just shocking to me. So I'm going to leave that as a C for a CSC. Boom. Got it. And moving on to Dalton Keene here. Loved this pick. Absolutely loved this pick for a couple of reasons. One, versatility. That's the whole theme of this draft, was versatility, plug and play, being able to do a lot of things on both sides of the ball. Keene reminds me a lot of Aaron Hernandez, and just minus the murder part. Keene is an effective weapon anywhere you put him on the field. And I think the interesting little tidbit here, I'm going to relate it back. This is a Joe Stafford exclusive here. James Devlin's injury last season was scary. A lot of people thought he was going to retire after next year. Leave it to Bill Belichick to revitalize the most dormant, unused position of football, fullback, by plugging Dalton Keene in there and having him play all over the field. Have him take snaps at running back in that fullback setup on the I form, right up the gut, or maybe even a toss. Maybe experiment with that a little bit. He can play in the slot as a receiver. He can play off the line as a tight end. He can play on line as a tight end. Hell, he can line up as a receiver if you wanted to. I love the versatility that he gives you right here. I really do want to see if Belichick kind of explores that fullback role for Keene once Devlin's out of the picture. I think that could be a very vital and kind of new age era way to shift the modern NFL's offense.
Those are all things Hernandez did when he was with us too.
100%, yeah. So I'm going to give Dalton Keene here a B- rating. I think the place he was drafted at gives him even more value because of the versatility and kind of effect that it gives you as the fifth draft pick in your class. I think it's just a great value for him, and I really do think Keene's going to be an effective player for us going forward.
I'm a little nervous for Pat Freiermuth. I wanted him to come to New England, and now you draft two tight ends like this in the third round. We'll see what ends up happening next year in the 2021 draft. But Pat, if you're listening out there, I'm still rooting for you. I hope the Patriots take you. I mean, the Bears have 10 tight ends, so we can just keep adding on and just see what ends up happening going forward. So, all right, that's day 2. We wrapped it up. You end off with 2 tight ends. Everyone's freaking out. Well, there's no quarterback. Don't worry about it. We can still pick somebody up. We can still go.
And by the way, for all you big Georgia guys, Jake Fromm's still at the board at this point. He really slowed down everyone's draft.
I mean, went before him.
Yeah.
So what we're gonna do here, just for time constraint, I'm gonna talk about the next player, and then we're just going to wrap it up with the last 4 and kind of combine them to one. But I want to give this one person, I want to have this as one individual here. Round 5, the Patriots needed a kicker. They had no kicker on the roster. When they got a kicker at this spot, yes, it's round 5. You get a kicker at this spot. They didn't have anybody. You had to take something. There was a need, and that need was never out there. So they get this kicker from Marshall. What's his name here? Justin how do you say it?
Rawhauser.
Okay.
Rawhauser.
So a couple of things about him. I saw his highlight. He had a game winner for Marshall last year. He kicked 2 50-yard field goals. He was 2 for 2, which is good. We need someone with the boot. You need someone out there. My interesting thing, this was happening. I'm going to give Jay the time to talk about this a little bit more. Is that someone DM'd me, I posted the highlight, and then someone goes, what do you think about his 3% tattoo? And I was like, what are you talking about? So then he zoomed in. It's like this tattoo that has 3 eyes on it. And I had no idea about any of that. So then I looked it up. I saw Jay's story about it, and Jay, that obviously you had something to talk about it. And I was like, okay, like that's kind of, weird. I posted about the New York Post article, which talked about his tattoo, and it says that he's going to cover it up. So all I did was I posted the article on Instagram. It says that it says right here that Justin's going to be renouncing the controversial group, the 3 Percenters, after facing backlash for having the tattoo on his forearm. I know some people will think one way of this is just a bigger deal. Who gives a shit? Others take this very serious, and I do want to give them time to talk about it themselves. I do not. When it comes to politics and sports, I leave it out there. I don't want to put my name on something like that. I went out there and said 2 things. I said, first, milk tats, you can cover it up, give them a little shout out. The second thing was, and something that I feel that needs to be said was, I know that some people doesn't matter what you have tattooed, this and that. I'm surprised teams don't look more into that, and that should be the Patriots probably knew. I don't know if Belichick knew or not. I don't know if the Patriots knew or not. But why aren't tattoos examined a little bit more? And I'm sure they are at the combine. I'm sure they are in interviews. Hey, what's this tattoo mean? What's that tattoo mean? It's something in the police world that you examine tattoos to know what gangs of people are associated with. So it didn't really blow up the way it's blown up, what you think it would for Patriots. But obviously New York Post wanted to cover it, whatever. I post it, and then everyone goes off and saying he's American and this and that. And then you just see the kind of a lot of ignorance going on. I just like to post things sometimes to show some of the stupidity out there. And listen, you can be on this side or this side. I don't care what side you're on. I mean, whatever. I'm not picking a side. I just thought it was just an interesting thing. Jay, and I talked to Jay, and I said, Jay, I really just want you to at least write on there, because I know that you've honored and served our country as well in the military, and we thank you for that. And this meant something towards you personally. And obviously, he's covering it up, and I'm sure it's going to be gone. There's going to be 53 men on this roster. Some are probably not going to agree with it, and they're not always going to be buddy. They're going to go out there, do the job together, and then, go home. But Jay, you have the floor for an extra time if you want to talk about tattoo itself.
So, all right, let me preface this for a second. I posted, a little story, and I gave a little background about the 3 Percenters, and I got backlash for it, and I got called unpatriotic, un-American, and go ahead.
And that's the thing right there, because shout out to our guy Jorge, who comes on every Instagram live, because he saw that, and people don't even know about what Jay has done for our country and has served and gone overseas and this and that, and they're shitting on him, calling him, and he was showing me that stuff, and I was just it just shows some of the ignorance, and that's what I'm saying about the ignorance about that. But go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, so a little background about me. I served 8 years in the United States Army, served 2 tours of Iraq. One was 12 months, one was 15 months. So a total of 27 months in Iraq. So forgive me if I get a little upset when these little bitches come out and cosplay, trying to dress up like me. Kind of pisses me off. But here's the thing with this guy, Justin Rohrhauser. I saw the pick, and I was happy. I was like, hey, we got a kicker. Fills a need. Probably good if we drafted him. And I was actually out with my girlfriend doing a couple stuff. And on the way back, I stopped at Wendy's. I started researching them a little more, and I saw the tattoo. And I knew what it meant. And so here's what Justin had to say about the tattoo. Let me put this out there so he can have his little word first. He said, I got that tattoo when I was a teenager, and I have a lot of family in the military. I thought it stood for a military support symbol at the time. Obviously, it's evolved into something that I do not want to represent. When I look back on it, I should have done way more research before I put any mark or symbol like that on my body, and it's not something that I ever want to represent. It will be covered. Cool. A lot of people took that, and they said, I'm okay with that. He's a Patriot. Nah, fuck that. He's 23 years old. He said he got it when he was a teenager. He's had that tattoo on his body for at least 5 years. He went to Marshall, which is in the it's in West Virginia. And, I'm not going to stereotype people, but people in West Virginia, they know what the 3 Percenters are. So for him to say, I don't know what it stood for, whatever, maybe when you were 16, 17, you got that tattoo. I'm going to give him a pass. Maybe he didn't know what the whole backstory was. And he got a tattoo thinking that he was supporting the military. And for that, I appreciate it. Much love. But at some point within the last 5 years, I refuse to believe that he didn't come to terms or to the knowledge of what that tattoo stood for. So here's a little thing. I got all these people telling me that. So for those who don't know, the 3%ers references the 3% of the colonists and Americans who stood up as an armed militia against the Brits. They are an anti-government, anti-police state hate group. They can say they're not a hate group. I've had many people tell me they're not racist. They're not anti-America. That's cool. You know who else says that they're not racist? The Proud Boys, which is our white nationalist anti-Muslim group, and the KKK. If you go look up what the KKK says about themselves, they say that they are not a hate group and they are not racist. So I don't care what your own literature has to say as an organization. Your actions will always speak louder than your words. The guy who started the 3%ers, his name is, let me get it here, make sure I pronounce it right, Mike Vanderbilt. He came into terms after the whole Waco and the Branch Davidians and the David Koresh stuff. So if you want to learn more about that, there's a great documentary on Netflix called Waco. That was how all this got started. That's how he got into this anti-nationalist, anti-government field. And then a black man was voted as our president. And this is when the 3%ers took off. There have been multiple domestic terrorism activities and plots that have luckily been stopped that were done in the name of the 3%ers and that were done who afterwards, these people who tried these things said that they were inspired by the writings, by the books and the blog that this Mike Vander, whatever his fucking name is, posted. They have done many armed militia standoffs with the federal government. And there was this guy, let me pull up his name real quick. His name's Alan Scarcella. He was arrested in connection with the shooting of 5 people at a Black Lives Matter protest in Minneapolis, and he was a proud 3%er. And so I hear all these people tell me that, well, the 3%ers is this large group, and there's just these bad apples that are in it. But it seems like the founder, who has promoted violence against our government, it doesn't make sense that you can say that it's just a few apples when the leader of the organization is promoting violence. After Sandy Hook, when 20-something kids got shot in Newton, Connecticut, this guy, Mike, was emailing senators, Connecticut politicians, and saying that if you increase gun control, that there will be bloodshed and we will act violently against you. So I don't know why people want to associate with that group. And before I get all the texts and the DMs that I'm this cuck liberal guy who is anti-American and anti-Second Amendment, fuck you. I have shot more guns than you have, buddy. I love guns. Guns are fun as fuck. I have shot M250 cows. I've shot AK-47s. I've shot M249s, M4s, M16s. I've shot everything, baby. They're fun. I love it. I get it. I've lived in households. I've had a gun in my household for the last 5-6 years. I'm okay with that. It's your right as an American to have a gun. It is not your right as an American to take that gun, cosplay up like you're some G.I. Joe soldier, fake ass, and go provide security for the far alt-right at the Charlottesville Unite the Right rally, literally providing security for Nazis chanting anti-Semitic chants. So the fact that this guy has this tattoo, and he's had this tattoo for at least, at the minimum, 5 years, it worries me. I don't want him on the team. He needs to go. He needs to be cut. I don't care that if he covers up the tattoo. It's been too long, and you should have known this by now.
I just want to say I agree with you in the sense of being 23 years old, you said he is.
Yes.
You should have had, I know still at 23 you can be pretty immature, but especially when you're going into the NFL draft, and you should know what kind of that represents. Now, if you think and you believe in that, it's hard to be like to get rid of someone's beliefs. But because of the society and world we live in, like, you should have known better to, hey, cover that up beforehand. And, Jay, I do want to say, so you're never going to forgive him. That's always going to stick there. This guy hits a game winner and wins you the Super Bowl. Like, how would you feel about that? Just wonder.
I'm going to wish someone else kicked it. I'm good from 40 in.
Yeah.
So,
but and again,
if it kicks inside 40, I'm going to be really pissed.
I just think that in the sense of someone says, because you're not the only one who thought that. Someone else sent me a DM, and it kind of made me look into it, and then I did my research on it. And again, I don't want to pick sides for politics as an individual, nor as a company at Ride the Wave. But then when I see kind of affecting you, and you have a lot of, and again, educated the way you're talking and the way you're putting your research out there, I said, you know what? Jay deserves time to have a platform to just talk about it. And I think it should be known, pick your sides, this and that. But at the end of the day, I think that's in the back of my mind. And I also think it too. Look at some of the Patriots players. They see this guy coming in. They probably are not going to like him either. You come in, you do your job. And as long as you're working, I'm sure they won't even think about it. But at the same time, I'm sure he's not going to make that many friends on the roster. Like, it's not going to be always beloved by every single one of them. So it does need to be set out there. But it is interesting. We want to move on here. Jay, I don't know. You probably saw me do this, and I did this as more of a just, me. I like to get clicks. I like to get likes. I like to do this. Going into last year in the offseason, I posted a Donald Trump Patriots jersey and said, I lost a bet and I had to wear this. And again, I don't want to attach politics. It was more of like, hey, I lost a fantasy football thing and I have to wear this. And the amount of comments I got that were all in support of Donald Trump and like that's an awesome jersey, this and that. And those that were trying to speak against it would just get shut down by Pats Nation and stuff. And I saw that very similar to what you were trying to post yesterday, educating, and writing long comments to educate what's going on, and people just trying to shut it down and this and that and saying those names, but they don't understand who you are as an individual and what you've done for our country and everything like that. So it just made it a very interesting conversation. But pushing that out of the way, and Justin and Joe, as a kicker, have you done your research on him, and what do you think as a kicker in politics?
Yeah. I think aside politics aside and such, I mean, he started his college career at the University of Rhode Island, right down the road from Foxborough. Obviously they got some familiarity with, what he's done as a player, and obviously Belichick and the team having, strong roots in that area, taking their word for it as at least someone that they need to keep him top of mind. He holds a record for 14 points in a single game. And then transferred to West Virginia and setting some records there in Huntington. I mean, as a kicker, listen, take everything aside. He seems like he's someone who's really reliable. He's made some big kicks, regardless if it's not at the top, Power 5 conference. And quite frankly, look at Vinatieri. I mean, he came out of South Dakota, for God's sakes. I mean, we need a guy right now. He seems like he's a good plug, and he comes highly regarded. So I'm in favor of it as talent-wise. And looking forward to the season on special teams.
Yeah, I'll keep it this short and sweet. He's good from 40 in. It seems like the percentage is there. He's had a couple, not a lot of experience outside of 50, but outside of 50, so far it's encouraging at the very least. We need bodies at kicker. I think we still bring in Nick Folk to compete with him during training camp. But at the end of the day, I think it's a smart pick in the 5th round. You always take your special teamers in the 5th round when you're Bill Belichick and the Patriots. So it wasn't shocking when you put him in the 5th round. I just think it's going to be a competition between him and Folk.
Yep.
And in terms of Belichick and probably seeing that, he probably doesn't care about your outside life. He doesn't care about what goes on outside of Gillette Stadium. I mean, I'm certain degree he doesn't want people, murdering other people and whatever. But, I think that as long as you can show somewhat maturity, so I'm sure that Belichick has seen this guy, especially when you talk. So I feel like as long as this guy doesn't talk about the 3%ers, he's like, I don't give a shit about what your beliefs are. Don't care where you come from. As long as, hey, when it comes to media time, you're not talking about that. You're not screwing yourself over. And things are getting found out. Then he doesn't care. So as long as you come here and kick for us, shut your mouth, do your job. That's all I want, because guess what? You help my legacy out and you help us win another Super Bowl. I want to put these 4 guys together and kind of wrap this up because we are running on crazy time right now. But it's been I like that you guys are really putting your effort into talk about all these players and your insights. 3 different people here. We got 4 players that got drafted. They went with a couple linemen. You got Michael Onwenu. Am I saying that right? Michael Onwenu. Michigan interior offensive lineman, massive, powerful blocker that dominates in condensed spaces. You go with the next one that is Justin Herron out of Wake Forest, captain over there, center. So, you get your center, maybe possible replacement for David Andrews down the line. I know David Andrews it's funny because David Andrews, I was talking about Cesar Wez, probably going after him, get a high pick. Then all of a sudden, right before the draft started, David Andrews like, I'm coming back. So you have at least David Andrews coming back for the Patriots. Then you end up going and getting Cash Moolah. Like, I got to say Cash Moolah. I like the name. Cash Moolah, Cash Money, Cash Allen Muali. A little flying Hawaiian on your team like that. And then lastly, I couldn't even find a highlight for this guy, Dustin Woodard. Dustin Woodard. Couldn't find him. Out of Memphis. I just got a video of him flipping tires. So it says he's a under-heralded and underappreciated player on the Memphis roster. He's a leader of the offensive line after moving to center in 2019 and has been a key to the offensive success for the Tigers. So, guys, those 4 picks right there, anything that you see out of those 4, anything you want to talk about, go right ahead. Jay.
So the only one who really sticks out to me is Cash. I see him being a possible gunner for the special teams. He's very, very fast for his size. He's only a little bit smaller than Devlin, but I think he runs like a 4.57 or something like that. So it just seems like a perfect guy for special teams. As far as like the offensive line guys, I'm not gonna pretend that I know anything about 6th and 7th round draft picks who are guards and centers. That's just I'm not giving any insight whatsoever to those guys.
Okay. All right. I want to speak more to Onwenu, the fact he's from Michigan. I mean, it seems like this common theme of you're either from an elite program that Belichick trusts full-heartedly, or you're coming from high recommendation of someone that's local or someone whom Belichick has worked very closely with in the past. The whole idea, very similar to our other draft pick from Michigan, the fact that there's that chemistry already built up with Chase Winovich and Uche. And so just really kind of playing on that to build that team chemistry moving forward. And even if it doesn't work out, there's still going to be a positive, influence in the locker room. And then the other 3, again, I'm with you, Jay. I wasn't too as familiar. These are guys that obviously they're late round draft picks. They've obviously proven themselves in their respective league. They're hard workers, and it's a crapshoot. If they work out, they work out. If they don't, they don't. But clearly, they have some value that the coaches see that we may not see.
Yeah, the number one thing across the board for these late round guys, they're all high character guys. They're good kids. They stay out of trouble, and they're dedicated to this game of football. It's like you said, it's a crapshoot. It's all just basically taking a flyer on these guys in later rounds. Do I think any of them make the roster? Probably very unlikely. I wouldn't say it's very likely that really any of them make the final roster, but it's good to just have these bodies in camp from respective programs and from programs that Belichick trusts, because you know what you're getting when your friend recommends them to none other than Bill Belichick. So I really do think that in certain cases it could work out for a couple of these guys, but looking at what I wrote down for some of these guys, I really don't think they make the final roster.
Okay.
So Nick Caserio comes out after day 2 and says, we're going to get a QB on the roster. We'll get a 3rd QB. So you're like, okay, let's see what happens in round 4, 5, 6, 7. Well, guess what? No quarterback was drafted for the New England Patriots. Drafted. No quarterback was drafted by the New England Patriots. Yes, they end up picking up 2 quarterbacks in the undrafted free agent signing, which we'll get to a second. But that just showed you they're all in on stuff.
Download the DraftKings app and try it free today using promo code NBCSB.
What are we listening to right in the background?
Oh.
little shout out right there, NBC. So the Patriots do not go quarterback, and it went to they should bring somebody in to compete with Stidham, to have somebody there to keep him on his toes. And then all of a sudden, again, Belichick, like, you know what? We're going with Stidham. We're rolling with him. We know he's the guy. I thought it was very interesting afterwards, too, to see that a lot of quarterbacks were falling, were dropping, and yet that out of all the quarterbacks that were taken, mostly all teams, 31 teams, have their quarterback set in stone going into the 2020 season. Cam Newton and Jameis Winston were still out there as free agents. Jameis Winston has just signed with the Saints, which I know Joe Stafford wants to talk about in a second. And I posted last night saying, hey, you never know that these guys are still out there and maybe something's going to happen and bringing one of those in there. But it looks like Belichick is certainly going with Jarrett Stidham. Guys, again, we'll go around the table here. Free agent signings, undrafted guys. Is there anything that stuck out? I know a couple guys probably have stuck out in your mind. Go right ahead and talk about it. Jay, you're up.
So the only guy that really sticks out as far as the undrafted free agents is Will Hastings. That's Stidham's guy, slot receiver. I mean, it seems like a plug and play, but I don't know a lot about the guy. But I feel like he's the type of guy that would succeed in our system, and if nothing else, a practice squad guy that can help out Stidham. And but yeah, I don't know nothing about these guys. But what do we got? 1, 2, 3, like 9 or 10 guys that we signed.
Like 15.
Is it that many?
Because I was looking Pat's Perfect in some of these fan accounts. They kept like, this is number 5, number 6, number 30. I started up to number 13, and I did see somewhere that the Patriots officially have 92 guys on the roster. You had to get the 90 man. You fill that out, so they obviously have some bodies for training camp and seeing like who's going to compete, and then when they start doing the cut down.
It's just good to know that it's a weird space where you know that of these, whatever you said, 15 guys, like 2 or 3 of them, they're going to be all right. And we know nothing about them. It's just how it works. It's just they're going to come in, they're going to be like, like, who the fuck was that guy? But here he is, like 7 years later. He's still a freaking Patriot.
My guy that I'm going to take is Jeff Thomas on the University of Miami wide receiver. This guy's a world of talent. Clearly put up numbers there. Kind of a big personality. The only problem and kind of black mark against him is that he couldn't stay out of trouble off the field and going off kind of questionable characters and decision making and such. But he comes highly regarded, and at this point in the draft, or it wasn't even in the draft, you kind of just have to make a kind of a chance decision in terms of what can he bring to the program, especially from our program that really turns guys like Randy Moss, Corey Dillon. I mean, there's several examples that we've kind of pulled in the reins and really kind of put their effort and focus into the game on the field.
Yeah, my one guy that I wanted to highlight here was actually a quarterback, Michigan State quarterback, Brian Lewerke, I believe his name is. Didn't watch a ton of film on him. I saw just a couple of highlights and stuff, kind of just dove in a little bit to the shallow end. My buddy actually goes to Michigan State. He saw this guy play every single week, and he said that he comes highly regarded. He's a team leader. I'm pretty sure he was a captain on this team as well. Leadership qualities are there. Arm isn't anything spectacular, but he's accurate. It kind of fits the mold of the typical Patriot quarterback. But hopping back on before we stop here on the draft, I think there's a very clear reason why the Patriots didn't draft a quarterback during the draft, because their guy was already gone. I would tend to believe that guy's either James Morgan from FIU or Jalen Hurts. Just based on the fact, if Fromm was their guy, they would have taken him. He was there for up to grabs just the entire draft, essentially, and they didn't want him. So obviously they didn't believe in him enough to warrant a draft pick. I say James Morgan. There was a lot of interest pre-draft about a month ago, and I tend to believe those rumors most because as soon as you get it within the first month of the draft, within that 30-day period, that's when all the smoke starts to come out. All the nonsense, all the non-believer stuff, all the stuff that you don't want to hear around your team because it's all false. Because every team's trying to throw every other team off their tracks there. I believe Morgan's a solid quarterback. I don't think they would have warranted the draft pick in the 4th round where he actually went, if I'm correct on that. But that obviously was their guy. Hurts wasn't going to fall down to them in the 3rd round. Evidently, he was taken in the 2nd round, which I think was a little bit high. And I already ranted about that, how that was stupid for the Eagles. But I think Morgan was their guy, and I do think they were kind of pissed off by that he wasn't there for that 5th round selection, so they kind of just let it go. When you sign 2 undrafted free agents that are quarterbacks, that are not that noteworthy, to be frank with you. I mean, they were nothing special in the field. There's a reason why they went undrafted in the first place. But you have a guy like Cam Newton who's still sitting in free agency, who you know is light years ahead of Brian Hoyer in terms of on-the-field product. And light years ahead of anyone's going to pressure Stidham. I don't think anyone in the NFL community, I don't think anyone in the fan base community thinks that Brian Hoyer is going to push Jarrett Stidham. I really don't think anybody believes that. That's
He's just going to mentor him.
Mind. Exactly. He's going to be in a mentor role. And I just think you need to bring in another quarterback to at least push him on the field wise and have at least a solid backup. Because if you have Brian Hoyer come in, say we have a Tom Brady 2008 scenario where Stidham tears his ACL week 1, you're going to go like 2-14. Like that's like, and I just
Trevor
don't.
Lawrence.
Hoyer doesn't have the ability to play on the field anymore. I think he lost about 3 years ago. There's a reason that Stidham beat him out as a raw product from Auburn last year. It's because Hoyer isn't good at football anymore. He should be
Maybe it's because Stidham is really good. So that's what I'm going to go with.
That could be it too. But my thoughts from Stidham last preseason, great talent, but raw. He wasn't ready to play, and that's the reason why we kept him around to develop him for the next year. But Hoyer is not well suited to be a backup. We need to bring in someone else to push Stidham. I think that guy should have been Cam Newton.
Do you think, I'm trying to go 20 years ago. It was Bledsoe's team. It was good. They signed him 10 years. Do you think that Belichick back then knew he was going to get the player that Tom Brady was? Did you think that he knew that in the back of his mind, or he was just lucky that?
I don't think he knew that. I think he saw something there because there's a reason why we carried 4 quarterbacks in 2000. No team in their right mind carries 4 quarterbacks in any season. No matter what the player they have, they just put him on the practice squad. If he gets picked up, he gets picked up. But Belichick saw something in Brady. He didn't understand the full scale of it. Obviously, nobody thought he was going to be the greatest player of all time. Nobody could have thought that. But he saw something. He trusted his quarterback coach at the time, and he thought, God, I got to keep this guy around. I can't let him slip away.
So you go 13, 14 years later, and he gets Jimmy Garoppolo, second-round draft pick. He saw something out of him and said, that's a guy that's going to push Tom Brady towards it. And he did. He pushed Tom Brady to keep him playing at a high level. So it makes me interested that the fact is Belichick getting a little cute right now and being like, you know what? I'm riding with Stidham and we're going to make that? Or do you think that there's a lot of pressure here because if Stidham does not pan out, that's tough look for Belichick because it's like, hey, you could have drafted somebody. You had the entire 2020 drafted to get somebody to compete with that in case Stidham doesn't work out. So you think Belichick's kind of getting cute and saying, yo, this guy is the real deal and we're going to win. What do you think?
Just personally for this, I just think he's banking on Stidham either being really, really good or really, really bad. I don't think he's planning for anywhere in the in-between.
Really, really serviceable. The fact is, their defense is still good. They still have weapons around Stidham. It's about a system, the system quarterback. Every team has a system. The Patriots system could work, just like it worked for Matt Castle in 2008. It worked. That system worked, even though
just like Randy Moss and Welker.
Okay, so I know that a lot of people will come out and say, well, they went undefeated the year before, Babs. It's like, well, the system, it still worked for him. I mean, this team could have went undefeated last year if they kept Antonio Brown and they kept Josh Gordon and all that things worked out together. I mean, they had the defense to do it. Real quick off the top of your guys' heads, name some Patriots, undrafted Patriots in the last 20 years that did something. And just off the top of my head, J.C. Jackson, undrafted, and that guy is somebody. I think he is a somebody. These players that you said we don't really know about them, 2 or 3 of them will become something. Is there anybody on the top of your head that's went undrafted by the New England Patriots that was a somebody in some sort of capacity? Malcolm Butler.
Yeah, I mean, Malcolm Butler definitely comes to mind. But on top of my head, nobody really. But I'm sure I'm missing a ton of people, a slew of people. I was prepared for this question. I'm not going to lie to you, Babs.
No, I just want to put you on the spot. I put myself on the spot, and I just blurted out Malcolm Butler,
Here's
too,
the thing,
with J.C. Jackson.
The fact that we can't, other than Butler, immediately think of somebody speaks volumes to the hope that we should put into these undrafted guys. I mean, in the history
actually, you know what? I looked up a list here. Let's go through this list real quick.
Go ahead. Thank you.
All right, here we go. I'm just go with the notable guys. First off the list, ironically, is Brian Hoyer, 2009. But I think that's kind of funny. No, but that's still a great value undrafted. He was a good backup for a long time. A guy like Kyle Love, 2010. I think he was serviceable during that 2011 championship run. So that's also a good pick. Our long snapper for a long time, Danny Aiken. I mean, he still provides you value on special teams. Brandon Bolden. How about Brandon Bolden, a longtime Patriot? Hey, great special teamer, great Patriot all around. I mean, he gave you a lot of value for the past, 8 years? 2013, Josh Klein, okay. Kembrell Tompkins, really good in his time in a Patriots uniform.
Got a pretty important catch against the Saints.
Oh, very important catch. Malcolm Butler the following year, like Babs
Never
just
heard
said.
of him.
David Andrews, 2015. I mean,
There you go.
One of the best centers. I mean, in the Patriots' relatively short history, NFL standards, David Andrews is one of the best centers we've ever had in this franchise, if not one of the best.
And even before that, Brian Stork, I think he was like a 6th-round pick. So he wasn't something you got someone later.
That same year, Justin Coleman. I mean, these are all great value guys that should have been drafted. Jonathan Jones. I can't believe he went undrafted. That's unbelievable to me. Adam Butler, 2017. I mean, Jacob Hollish, we even got trade value for Seattle. And like you said earlier, J.C. Jackson as well. So, I mean, there definitely is value to be had with these undrafted guys. It's just not very common to have the amount of success we've had.
But there's a little trend right there towards the end. It seems like in the last 5 to 6 years, they've been picking up at least one player that's somewhat made an impact on the team that could take that undrafted value, undrafted, and become value for a pick or something like that. Right. 2 things, just moving on real quick. Thaddeus Moss going undrafted. Wow. I know. So I posted about it and said, oh, maybe he'd be day 2. And then someone said, I'm on crack because he's a 6th-round draft pick. And the Thaddeus Moss thing, Stafford, in my mind, is we went to the combine and Thaddeus Moss was kind of held in regard because of his father, Randy Moss. He's coming off a championship season, national champion at LSU. And then he had an issue with his foot. And I'm wondering if that foot issue ended up becoming way bigger than what it was. And what do you think about Thaddeus Moss? And you end up going to the Redskins, but what do you think about that?
I think it's atrocious he wasn't drafted. I think that's a very disrespectful move by really anyone in the NFL community. Not just because of his father's name. I've saw that a lot. People should have they should have drafted him just because he's Randy Moss's son. No, this guy's good at football. Plain and simple. He was a very effective weapon for LSU down the stretch. Had a great playoff run with one of Joe Burrow's 7 touchdown passes against Oklahoma. But no, he shows great athletic ability. He's not a great blocker, but a lot of tight ends just aren't good blockers. He's a great weapon to have for really any NFL team. I think he's an automatic number 2 tight end on most guys' rosters in the NFL. I was just shocked. I was utterly shocked.
Any thoughts for you 2 guys over there, Justin or Jay?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of indifferent to it. I wish that we could have obviously drafted him simply because we love Randy Moss and keep him around the facilities as much as we can. But yeah, I mean, I'm glad he found a home. I think that the new offense that they have down there in Washington, I hope they use him. I hope,
For me, the whole Thaddeus Moss thing went out the window when Brady left. It's just not cool anymore. So, I mean, Stidham to Moss doesn't have the same ring to it as Brady to Moss. So,
well, Riverboat Ron had Greg Olsen. He knows how to use a tight end properly. Yep. So he's going to get Thaddeus Moss. We'll see what happens. Speaking of Riverboat Ron, his former team, Carolina Panthers, Cam Newton, cut. Jameis Winston been signed somewhere. He should be the hottest quarterback free agent right now. And then incarcerated Bob today went out there who you see him on Twitter. He'll post things. I have no idea who the hell he is, but he's gotten some things right in the past. He's gotten a lot of things wrong in the past. Said AFC East. He tweeted that out. He said AFC East, and they said #Cam. It sounds like he's insinuating that Cam Newton's going to land in the AFC East. So that gets the Pats Nation riled up. Maybe Cam Newton. We'll all be doing this. We'll be dabbing on it. We're going to be dabbing. If he signs, the second he signs the New England Patriots, I will have my phone out. I have my Stidham Stiffy, but I also be dabbing. I'll be dabbing back and forth.
Let's be honest. If Cam Newton signs with the Patriots, you're going to be asleep.
But
hey, we're going to start calling you the Mattress King because you're always
But listen to this. The last 2 times with Brady, I fell asleep 10 minutes before the Brady news came out. And then the Gronkowski, I let everyone else talk first because they all come to the Spike King. What the hell is this guy got to have to say about it? So, sometimes an instant reaction isn't what you need. You get the reaction after.
Okay, no, but before we move on here, I have one question for all of you, including you, Babs. We're talking about this backup quarterback scenario. We're talking about these undrafted guys, and I brought up Cam Newton already. People have been saying he's going to cost a lot of money. No, he's not. There's a reason why he's unsigned right now. He's not going to command $15 million suddenly out of nowhere.
I agree.
Training camp opens. So say in this scenario, he costs you anywhere between like $6 million, around $6 million, right? 1 year contract. If you're Bill Belichick, or even if you're just yourself, you're in charge of the New England Patriots, do you take that shot with Cam Newton for the 1 year deal?
If you don't believe in Stidham, and you want that
But
1
even
year,
if you do believe in Stidham, just to push him and just to be a great high quality backup, and he's still keeping Hoyer on that as that third quarterback.
Do you think his ego will really, really be positive for the franchise? Him as a backup?
Yeah, I don't think that works. He wants to be a starter.
There's no way if Cam Newton comes, he's a backup.
Yeah.
The guy's a former MVP. It hasn't been that long. Look, here's the thing. If Cam Newton were to come to the Patriots, I don't know if he wears number 1. I think we kind of like delegate number 1 to like Pat Patriot and to like all the fans and like, like dignitaries that come, to the Patriots. But
maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong, but there's a reason why Vegas dropped the odds to sign with New England for Cam Newton from plus 400 to plus 170 today.
Vegas is going to do whatever the people are going to bet on. They're just trying to make money.
But Vegas is never wrong, so why would they increase the chances of him going here? You know what I mean? There's at least something there that people aren't.
There's something there, and honestly, if it happened, like fucking roll with it. Let's go. The one thing I will say, if the ball's on the ground, if the ball's on the ground, Cam, get your fucking ass on the ground. I don't care if it's the Super Bowl or the preseason. I don't want to see none of that. Yeah, I don't want to see none of that shit up here in New England. But I mean, the guy's a talented quarterback. He's a personality. And look, I mean, we have to face facts. Tom Brady's gone. And we're not going to be in the Super Bowl every other year. We're not going to be in the AFC Championship every year. Like, that part is done and in the past. And what we have to do is we have to make Sundays fun. And Cam Newton makes Sundays fun.
I just drink a lot.
Yeah. I just want to get drunk. I just want to get drunk and see what the fuck Cam Newton's going to do. That would be a fun Sunday. And make football fun again. Fuck it. Cheers.
I would love just, watching football Sundays. Cam Newton scores a touchdown and then Patriots fans are just dab. But listen, what are the odds for the Miami Dolphins? I talked myself into it. I think Cam Newton down to Miami makes a lot of sense. Now, Stafford, in our little chat on Ride the Wave, you're like, well, Fitzpatrick's still under contract. Then I looked up his contract prior to you even saying that. And Fitzpatrick dead cap is $4 million. So if they cut ties with him, that's what you got to pay him on an $11 million contract. Well, guess what? You can keep that $11 million contract as you at least have a backup in case Cam Newton still doesn't have it. Because Cam Newton did lose his job.
That's a fair point. That's a fair point. I like Cam Newton in Miami for a lot of reasons. I think it fits the scheme there. They just traded for Matt Breida from San Francisco. I mean, it fits the speed type of offense they want to start to implant as they move forward in the next generation, even with Tua. And I think Cam and Tua are similar enough to where even if Cam isn't good and Tua is healthy enough to play to supplant him, it would be a seamless transition.
But imagine that Tua's not playing in 2020. And you got to sit him. He's your franchise quarterback. Miami has something. I like Brian. I think Brian Flores might be one of the most successful coaches under the Belichick tree. And I'm going to say that right now. I think that because of what he did in Miami, he gutted everything out. You stocked up on picks. You stocked up on money. And you're going to start building a winning culture. What did I say in our chat earlier today? Miami is a destination you want to play in. It's just they don't have a winning culture there, and nothing wants to say, I don't want to go to Miami. I don't want to be for a losing team. Flores has the opportunity now to build that winning culture. And Tua, imagine this. You are third string, but you get to learn from Ryan Fitzpatrick, who's a journeyman in the NFL, who kills it every September. But also, you get to then Fitzpatrick does his 1 year. See you later. Now you're the official backup to Cam Newton. And now you can see from a guy who was the former NFL MVP who played in a Super Bowl, and you start learning from that. They would be set in 2 years in 2022 to let Tua then eventually become the starter. And you give him 2 years to learn the system of the NFL, to heal up his hip, to get ready for that. That would be success. And guess what? The Miami Dolphins have $20 million in their cap space still. They can afford Cam Newton. They don't have to pay him tons of money, but they could afford him. They could pay him. So I think that's actually a perfect fit. And I just like this overall because look at this. You have Sam Darnold. You have who did the Jets get for the backup quarterback? They got who did they get? Did they get James Morgan? They got somebody. They got somebody as their backup over there. Why am I putting you guys on the spot and you guys don't know who
That's
the
some
back
Joe
is?
Stafford questions right
Yeah,
there. That
Babs.
ain't
I'm
me.
Who
waiting
did
for
they
you.
get? Babs, who did they get?
I don't know. They know they got a quarterback other than
I
Sam
don't know.
Darnold.
I want to find the Jets dropped in the
Okay,
fourth
but
round.
you should because the Patriots were look it up now. It's despicable we don't know this.
That's not you.
Morgan. Okay. So
Morgan.
okay. The Bills end up getting who? As their
Eason.
back- Jake Fromm. The Miami Dolphins got Tua. They also could get Cam Newton, and then you're the lonely Patriots rolling with Stidham. The AFC East quarterback situation is going to be very interesting over the next 3 to 4 years. I just look
I
at all
cannot
of
wait to see Josh Allen overthrow Stephon Diggs again. That'll be fun.
Yeah, but it's still interesting that they're still looking at these quarterbacks that would look like a deep class, and they end up getting them. Those are the guys that could have been on the Patriots, and it's just interesting. All right, we got to wrap this up. Final thoughts. Go around the table. Jay, any final thoughts?
All right, so final thoughts on the draft for me is simple. You know, when the draft is over, you want to be excited about the next season. I'm not really feeling that with the squad, but I do, like I said earlier, I do have some cautious optimism. I think we got a lot of pieces or holes that have been plugged, but none that have really got me excited that, I can't wait to see this guy play on Sunday. But with that being said, that's how I feel about 90% of our drafts, and it's been working out. So what the fuck do I know? I trust in Bill, and I think we're going to be all right.
Yeah, I agree with you, Jay. I'm kind of like, hey, it is what it is. You know, nothing really stands out. The Uche pick was my favorite one.
Yeah, agreed.
I think that just his versatility will certainly, play itself out more quickly relative to the other picks. But yeah, let's just get football going.
Hopefully we're playing.
Yeah, seriously. Overall draft, from an excitement standpoint, underwhelming. I don't really think we got a lot of headline guys. Guys like Jay said, you want to see on Sundays. But these are impact guys that are to be in the locker room, be beneficial to the locker room culture. I think they start setting that foundation for the next era of New England Patriots football. Certain guys like Uche, I think, are going to be maybe star players, maybe even a guy like Dalton Keene too, where I can see him in certain roles being very impactful on Sundays. Cautionally optimistic, I think it's been the whole aura we've had going on this draft. I had to agree with it. I mean, that's the only way you can really put it. I'm hopeful for the future, but right now I'm going to stay with the caution play, a little bit caution playing field right now.
And let me just say before we go, this is how I want to feel about every draft. Because this means that we're picking at the end of the rounds. I never want to get that, Burrow pick where I'm like, oh, fuck yeah, we got the number one guy. That sucks. That means you went 2-14 the year prior. The longer we can go, I'm cautiously optimistic. I hope these guys works out. That means we're making deep playoff runs, and I'll ride with drafts like this, till the day I die.
And
we could have got Patrick Queen, but
yeah, very true.
And that's what kind of I'm wrapping up on is that this team isn't just rolling over. This team is still getting a bunch of guys. And yes, some of these guys are not going to pan out, but Belichick is still exploring all options. Belichick is still building his legacy. This team, the New England Patriots, are still fighting for playoff spots. Yes, they are not Super Bowl contenders every single year anymore. They are not. I mean, they're still playoff contenders. They're still going to be there, and they're still fighting for AFC East championships. But this is a team that hasn't done you want to talk about a rebuild? Imagine being a rebuild team, but you're also still competitive for the playoffs at the same time. Because in about 1 year.
Boston Celtics.
Yep.
Yeah. Because in 1 to 2 years, you're still going to rebuild some of these guys and get ready for the future to make your next push for another Super Bowl championship. And you got to know that Belichick wants that 7th ring for the New England Patriots as a head coach. He wants that, and he's going to get that at some point, whether it takes 1 year or it takes 5 years. When he came in and he first came into Robert Kraft and when he took over in 2000, he laid it out there and said, my plan in the next 5 years or the next 4 years, we'll win 1 ring. Well, he ended up winning 3 in 5 years that he ended up being the head coach there. So I know that if he's laying it down again, coming in here, looking at the team, I will win 1 ring in the next 5 years, and that will happen. The Patriots will win a Super Bowl in the next 5 years. Guarantee that. You come back on this in 5 years from now and say, Babs called it. I mean, you look at the team and the roster building, the culture they still have there. It's going to happen. It is 100% going to happen.
Babs, give me a tattoo or what?
Yeah, I was gonna say, you gonna tattoo that
I
on
will
you?
have the tattoo ready to go. I just won't have the year. Like I'll just wait for it.
All right. What about my initials? Don't you owe me some initials?
Yeah.
What did you end up?
21 out of 32 is a position, right?
I don't care about positions, dude. I
You
want.
should, because that's the whole point of a mock draft is to guess
no.
what team the is going. Oh my god.
It's names. It's names. Would you end up hitting on 12 names though, right?
I hit on 9 names.
9. Oh, you didn't get double digits. You didn't
Hey,
get
21 out of 32 teams. I knew what position they were going to draft.
I mean, dude, like it is what it is. I'm
Okay,
not gonna give you
hold on,
credit
hold
for
on.
that.
I beat every single CBS sports analyst. Every single mock that they put out, I beat. Every single analyst they put out.
But you didn't get the names right.
Oh my god. I got more names right than they did.
Semantics.
Yeah. Okay. This has been Boston's Big 3 podcast presented by Ride the Wave Media. Today sponsored by Bench Clearers right here, Boston Bruins. You get your tank top there. We appreciate that. Jay the Pats fan. You follow him at Jay the Pats fan. We have at Justin_Zolot 22 Nash Pats fan club coming on here, all dressed up nice in his little Patriots suit and bow tie and that. And of course, Joe Stafford. You follow him ridethewavemedia.com for his analytics, his breakdown. I'm waiting. Do you have a breakdown coming soon for all the draft picks? There you go. So you're at that. We appreciate that. That's been episode 52, Boston's Big 3, Ride the Wave Media.